Hey everyone, it's Dave here with bluebearsgames. Today's episode we are going to be doing an unboxing and an upgrade. So the unboxing we're going to do, as you can tell by the title, is the Strixhaven Commander 2021 series. We're going to be doing the Prismari Performance to start the 5 decks off. We're going to do this one today, and the other 4 we're going to do as weeks progress. A lot of time goes into the upgrade section, so I'm taking some time in between, unlike last time where I did all 5 decks in the same time. So we're going to start off with this one, and first things first, I'm going to mention that the boxing and all the packaging is a lot different than previously. So one thing you'll notice is that this here is actually printed on the box instead of a piece of plastic. That's part of their initiative to cut down on the plastic consumption, so that's a good thing. I like the way the box looks. And the other thing I like about this, and this is pretty cool, is that finally we get a ripcord so we can open the box. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'll show you everything that's inside, all the bells and whistles that come with it. It's easier to come out. Comes with some cool stuff. Alright, so first things first, it comes with this. I don't know what you really can do with it except for poke these out, and I guess gives you a planeswalker section for your I guess your playmat. Comes with punch out tabs, which I'll do later. I may even cut this out of the box just because it looks pretty cool. Maybe I'll attach it to the box it stays on. So not bad. Packaging is much better this time around. The deck comes in this. This is what looks like it comes in. I think they have like a reduced packaging, so it's like a white box. It's a little bit bigger than this. I don't like the box as much that the deck comes in as compared to, say, the old ones. I kind of like these boxes a little bit better. But to each their own, right? Alright, so it comes with the life counter, just like in all the previous ones. Comes with an insert that tells you a little bit about the deck and how to play Commander, blah, blah, blah. Don't care about that part. This part's cool. This one's a cool looking one. I'm a big fan of blue-red, so that's not bad. The box itself has an insert in it, which is nice for taking up space. And then this is what the box looks like. It has a flap for some reason, I guess, so you can close it. I don't like this box as much as the other box, but it's okay. So, alright. So that's what comes inside the box itself. Now we go over the actual deck. And then later on we'll do the upgrade guide. So here's where my big bane comes from. These are supposed to just pull right off, and I always have a problem with it. Ooh, had an easy time this time. So we'll go over the deck, and then we'll go from there. And I'm going to split it in half because the deck's just too thick. Alright, and I'll zoom in so you guys can see. Like previous videos, I don't want to read every single one off to you, so if you have to go back on it, I'll just name off what the card is, and then you can pause the video in between if you need to. So, the commander is Zaphi, the Thunder Conductor. It's 1 red, 1 blue, 2 of any. It's a 1/4. The commander itself comes in foil. And I remember hearing something about the commander, the extra commander, I guess, is on that box that you have to cut out, being thicker. I don't see it here. Oh, there it is. No, that's not it either. I don't know. I'll figure it out as we go. So I will read off the commanders just so you have an idea of what they do if you can't see them, because the foils are a little hard to see. So again, 4 to cast for a 1/4. It's a human shaman, legendary. Has Magecraft, and that says whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, you scry 1. If that spell's mana value, or converted mana cost is what it used to be, is 5 or greater, you create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. If that spell's mana value is 10 or greater, Zaphi, it says Thunder Collector instead of Conductor. They have errated that to say Thunder Conductor. Deals 10 damage to an opponent, chosen at random. So that's the one that you're supposed to on this one, alright? So the next one down is Varen, Voice of Duality, 3 to cast. It's 1 blue, 1 red, 1 of any for a 2/2. A Freet Wizard, legendary. This one has Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Varen, Voice of Duality, gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And if you casting or copying an instant or sorcery spell causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So those are the 2. Now apparently it comes with 2 Is that what the box said? Let me get it real fast, just because. Yeah, it says 2 legendary foils. I guess those are the 2 commanders they give you choices for. So, let's go through the rest. Alright, so they start off with a Resculpt. Go into a Stormkiln Artist. Elemental Masterpiece. Expressive Iteration. These are all Strixhaven cards, apparently. Rutha Mercurial Artist. Letter of Acceptance. It's a lesson. And the reason why I just read them off is because the order that they give them to you when you unbox these things is not like my videos. When I do it in a specific order. So I'm just going to read them off to you. You can pause it again when you need to. Prismari Campus. Study Hall. I guess that comes in all of them probably. Good addition was a Brainstorm. Love that edition. Nice to see them reprinting that. Living Lure. Ponder, another good addition. These, the Brainstorm and Ponder are 2 of the best cantripy spells. Ooh, and a Serum Visions. So some of the best cantrips in blue are included in this one. Traumatic Visions. Treasure Cruise. Looting. Faceless Looting. Fiery Fall. Humble Defector. Mana Geyser. Seething Song. Crackling Drake, an Arcane Signet, naturally. Hedron Archive. Is it Signet? A Mind Stone, good inclusion. A Soul Ring, like everyone gets. One of the surprises to me was that they put the Talismans in, so Talisman of Creativity. A Blighted Cataract. A Command Tower. We're starting the rares now. First one up is a Dazzling Sphinx, and that's a long one to read, so I'll just sit here for a second so you can read it if you want to. Inspiring Refrain. Muse Vortex, and again, another long one. A lot of the cards in here have a long, description for what they do. So I'll let it sit here for a second so you can read it. And again, pause if you need to. Octavia, Living Thesis. That's a 10 to cast. I like this guy, though. The War Debate is nice. Sly Instigator. Creative Technique. Fiery Encore. Inferno Project. Radiant Performer. Rihanna Fire Dancer. More long text. Rousing Refrain. Surge to Victory. Man, these are all long. Whatever happened to just short, abilities so you don't have to sit there and read them forever? Reinterpret. It's a counterspell for blue-red. That's always nice. Elementalist Palette. It's one of the better cards, I think, in this. I'm going to probably put this in my Pure and Toothy deck, to be honest with you. Aethergale. Aether Sprouts. Dig Through Time. Oldie but goodie. Diluvium Primordial. Again, another oldie. The inclusion of this was great for me. I've been looking for this. This is on my wants list for a deck that I had that I want to build. So Metallurgic Summonings goes great with Shark Typhoon. Mind's Desire, another card I was looking for. Then I realized, oh, I have it. And then, of course, I opened one in my Strixhaven regular box from the Mythical Archives. Naru Meha, the Master Wizard. Swarm Intelligence. Talrand, and I've made 2 decks on this. I have my own personal deck and a budget brew that I'm making for that I made for Talrand that's for sale. Apex of Power. Blasphemous Act, great inclusion, especially in Commander. Brass's Bounty, and that's the last card in my hand, so let me go grab the other pile. Alright, here we go. Keep going. Charmbreaker Devils. Dual Caster Mage. Erratic Cyclops. I like to use that in my budget brews all the time. It's a good card. Good to use for budget. Itali. You can make that a commander itself. Jaya Ballard. Sunbird's Invocation. Volcanic Vision. Wildfire Devils. That must be a new, one of the new devils. Call the Skybreaker. Thought that was a uncommon at first. Epic Experiment. Good card. Great for, what do they call this? It's not Is It for this. It's, I don't know. What do they call this? For Prismari. I'm going to call it Is It. Don't really care. Pyromancer's Goggles. I actually use this in my Perforos deck. It's a really good card for something that casts a lot of instants. It's a great card. Exotic Orchard. Scavenger Grounds. Shivan Reef. Needed one of these for another deck, so that's a great inclusion for me. Temple of Epiphany. Desert of the Fervent, and of the Mindful. Both cycling lands. Forgotten Cave, and there should be a Lonely Sandbar. There it is. Lonely Sandbar, and then Is It Boilerworks, so the more cycling lands. Mage Ring Network. Memorial to Genius. Myriad Landscape. Reliquary Tower, which is really good. Temple of the False God. And then it looks like the rest will just be... Oh, there it is. Okay. The rest will just be mountains and islands. And then the surprise at the end of the deck, and that's cool, it's kind of off-center. It's the etched foil version. This is the etched foil version of the commander. It's a little thicker. Actually, it's a lot thicker. If you ask me, that's really thick. Like, really thick. It's etched foil. It's a little different foil than the other one. And it's a little off-center on the foil stamping. Not really worth anything, I'm sure, but whatever. So, interesting that they do have thicker ones. And then, of course, the tokens, which are probably double-sided. And they are. Okay, so that's what comes inside of the actual package. It's the deck. I should have seen it from here. This is where the extra thick one is, the extra foil version. So that's what comes inside. That is the total deck unboxed. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put that one out here. Because why not? So next we go over what I consider good upgrades for this deck. Now, I'm going to preface this real quickly with not everything I say will work for everybody, and I won't go over everything you can do for a deck, specifically in blue-red, just because there are so many options. I will give you some of the top ones I thought off the top of my head. I went through and researched some of the cards that I thought would be great. So the list I'm about to go over is my suggestions for different versions. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to have in here, I'm going to go over 4 different versions, and I'm only going to give you a couple of options for each version, and I'll announce them as I go. What you can do to upgrade this deck. So, first option that you can do as an upgrade. You can go with this deck Wizard Tribal. It's going to be tokens and spells, because that's what they do. You can do what I call Spellslinger good stuff. It's almost kind of like a counterburn deck. It has a lot of cantrips and such, so that you can cast spells to get triggers off your Magecraft. You can do a treasure token with Pirates and Galazeth, the red-blue Elder Dragon from Strixhaven, who works well with treasure tokens. And here's the problem with that, though. Most likely that would be your commander in place of if you went Pirate Tribal with Galazeth at the helm. Or you can do the direction I would personally choose to go in, which is Storm. And, you know, Storm has its purposes and its ways that you can do it in, like, Modern. Unfortunately, since you're only able to do one copy of a card, it's a little harder to do, but it's the way I would go. And there are cards like Manamorphose, which do not happen to be playable in these colors because it has green in the mana symbol. So there are some downfalls to Storm, but it's the direction I would choose to go into. So they all meld together. I mean, you can combine them. This deck is a combination of everything but the Wizard's Tribal, sort of. I mean, there are ways you could do the Wizard Tribal in out of the box. There is not a treasure token theme here, so the pirates is kind of out. It has some storm cards already in it, so the storm, you could just build on that if you'd like. So, first section, we're going to go over lands. I'm going to start with my holy trinity that I always start with, and that's the Volcanic Island, Steam Vents, and Scalding Tarn. It is the dual land, the shock land, and the fetch land. I always tell everybody, if you have the means, please go ahead and upgrade your deck any way you want. But if you have the means to do that and you want to, that is the Holy Trinity. Alright, below that, for any of the options that I gave, and most of the lands are for any option, some are a little different. You can go as Sulphur Falls, which is the check land. Cascade Bluffs, which is the, I don't know what they call those, I guess it's a filter land. And Training Center, which is the Battle Bond lands. Next up, you can go with the Pathway, which is a River Glide, Lava Glide Pathway. The new land from, I believe it's from Strixhaven, which is the Frost Boil Snarl. And then you can even go with Fiery Islet, but those are if you're just desperate to have the dual colors without coming into play tapped. Alright? You're in blue, so you can do Castle Vantress, so you can get your scrying on. Mystic Sanctuary seems like an option here, like an auto include, because everything's about casting spells. And then a little older card, you can do Soul Devi Excavations, which basically lets you scry through your stuff, just kind of like Castle Vantress does. So that's another set of options. For the treasure token side, you could possibly do Academy Ruins. For an honorable mention for two more cards that I would say that you could throw in any of the builds, you could do Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle. Helps you get damage in, you're already in red. And you can do Nivix itself. I don't remember the full name, but I'll have it up here on the screen so you can see it. Other options that are a little higher costing, some of them are. But for Wizard Tribal, you could do Cavern of Souls. For treasure token builds, you can do Inventor's Fair. And for any of the builds, you can do a Thespian Stage, just to help copy some other, another land. If you really want to spend some money, and this is really, really a lot of money, for the Wizard Tribal theme, you could do Winding Canyons. You could do a Vesuva if you want to continue the copying your lands. And then if you really want to go all out, for every version that I've mentioned so far, but the Wizard Tribal, you could absolutely do a Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale. Good luck finding one. If you have one, congrats. I used to have a mint condition one years ago. I sold it to a friend. I really just wish I never did that. So those are the lands that you can do as upgrade options for this deck, specifically because it's, what do they call this again? Prismari colors that are blue-red. Okay? Next section we're going to go over, it's not going to be too in-depth because we're in blue-red, but we're going to go over the ramp, which is going to be the mana rocks. There is no ramp in blue-red to speak of. There's no fetching lands except for through artifacts. So you're going to get your ramp through mana rocks. There are a bunch already in here. You've got the Soul Ring and the Arcane Signet. You've got the Talisman. So there are not many options left after that. So I'm going to go with the expensive option first, and then I'm going to go to the cheap. So expensive, you could throw in a Jeweled Lotus, because you could actually use it to cast this. The commander. You could do a Mana Crypt or a Mox Diamond. All three of those are great ramp options for a deck like this. If you want to go the cheap route, I'd say cheap. Some people it's not cheap. For me, it'll work though. So you've got Thought Vessel, Felwar Stone, and Fractured Power Stone. Those three mana rocks, they're all 2 to cast. They all don't enter tapped. They're great options on a budget. So those are the only options I can think of for ramp that aren't already included in the out-of-the-box deck. Alright? So the next section we're going to go over is creatures. Alright? So this is where it gets a little fuzzy because there's so many options you can choose, and there are a lot. I'm only going to go over a few, and it's going to be a lot more than I usually do, but it's what I can do. Alright? So if you want to go the Wizard Tribal route, you can go with Adeliz. I've done a deck on that. It can work. You could just swap Adeliz out into this deck and it will work just fine. So that could be your commander. You're going to add like Talrand is already in there, so we don't need to worry about Talrand. You could do a Murmuring Mystic, because when you cast instants and sorceries, just like Talrand, you get a creature. So and it's also a wizard. In keeping with the wizard tribal, you could also go with Dawson of Perfection, a young pyromancer, and Dika, the fractal theorist. I believe Dika is actually in the blue-green precon for Commander 2021. The reason why Dika is in that one is because it creates a blue and green token, and the good thing about it is since there's no mana symbol, you can actually use it in this one, in this version as well. So those are the wizard tribal upgrades that I could see being for wizards. There are a couple more. I'm missing one, and what I'll do is I was going to mention Talran, but I forgot Talran's in the precon here. I'm actually going to have... There's a wizard that gives them +1/+1 I don't think was in here. I'll add that in there as a... I can't remember off the top of my head what the name of the card is, but you can use that as well. Alright, so continuing on the creature side. For Spellsling, you could do Bloodwater Entity, Dreadhorde Arcanist, or God Eternal Kefnet, because that'll help you cast your spells. It'll copy it, and then you can cast it, all that good stuff. So God Eternal Kefnet is a good option. Additionally, for Spellslinger, you could go with creatures... Okay, and I'm going to mention Kiln Fiend, but there are creatures exactly like Kiln Fiend that you can also add to this to do the Spellslinger, because every time you cast an instant or sorcery or non-creature spell in some cases, it gets a buff and then you can attack with a high attack power. There are creatures like Enigma Drake. There is the Cackling Drake in here, or Crackling, whatever it's called. Other options that are like Enigma Drake, and there are a couple others just like it where they count the amount of instants and sorceries in your graveyard. Crackling Drake actually counts in exile as well. There are a couple creatures just like that. I actually do a deck called Is It Blitz or Is It Drakes that focuses on that. And then there's a creature called Zada Hedron something, I can't remember. But Zada. You can use Zada, and there are a couple creatures just like Zada where when you cast a spell specifically targeting that creature, it copies it for each creature you control. Awesome in this kind of deck because that Magecraft will go off a lot. Alright. For treasure tokens, like I said earlier, you can use Golazeth as your commander, but you can put him in the 99 here, and it'll work just as well. Dockside Extortionist from last year's commander set would be great for that. And then you have Hull Breacher, which was just printed in Commander Legends. All great options to add as just purely treasure token. There are a bunch of other ones too. You can look it up on whatever way you look up cards. I use MTG Familiar, but we can go a little further with it and turn it into a pirate tribal, if you will, with treasure tokens, because then you can add things like the Gold Span Dragon, and you can add that for either option anyway. But Malcolm the Kenai and Captain Lannery Storm will help you if you want to go in the pirate tribal direction. As far as Storm goes, you can kind of go any way you want with it. I would go, if you wanted to do any of this and you want to combine any, I would go because there's not a lot of Storm cards out there that are left that need to be put in here. There are a few, and I'll go over that in a second. You can go a sub-theme of Wizard Tribal with a Storm theme, and it will work just as well. So that's an option you can do. As far as spells, some of the things that I would do to upgrade this deck entirely, it doesn't matter what direction you go in, I would definitely switch in an Opt, a Preordain, and a Whispers of the Muse to kind of flesh out the rest of the cantrips that are really good, really cheap, and you can keep casting spells. That's just one thing. For the Storm option, you can go with, and this is what I was talking about earlier about how you can't use something like Manamorphose, but you can add in Desperate Ritual, Pyretic Ritual, and Past in Flames, so you can keep casting things that give you mana. I wish that we could get the options where you could use a Manamorphose. One of the rules I wish that they would change at the rules committee is that you could use hybrid mana stuff in different decks. Like this could use hybrid for Manamorphose because it's a hybrid red-green. I wish it didn't matter. If it had at least one color, you could use it, but they don't. Not a lot of them. Not a lot of the spells in red that give you mana let you draw cards. That's one of them. So Storm is not. It takes a hit from that, not being able to do that, but it's an option. As far as Storm goes, after that though, the Storm spells. Now this is what I'm going to tell you. I would put every Storm spell that is blue, red, or blue and red in the deck, but there are three specifically that I would put in here. Empty the Warrens, Grape Shot, and Flusterstorm. All three should go in here regardless. They're great options. They do provide a lot of copies, especially if you play them in a deck that's specifically geared to do that. So those are the three options I would do. And again, this is one of the broadest categories you can do because, let's just be honest, what does blue and red do? They cast instants and sorceries. It's the broadest theme, or it's the broadest category you can do for this kind of a deck. So I would really implore you. I don't know what you guys use as far as the way to look up cards, but if you have an Android, MTG Familiar, you can put in so many parameters and look things up so easily. Some people use the Gatherer. I like the fact that I have an app that can do it. I haven't found a good app other than that yet. So those are some ways you can look them up, and that's what I would do as far as spells. Because, you know, it depends on your playstyle. Some people just like spell slinging. They just like throwing cheap spells out there. Some people like casting the big fireball. Everybody's different, so I would look it up and see what your playstyle fits. Now, we're going to go into utility artifacts. Now, before I get into that, though, one little thing. I'm going to give you 3 cards in a row that are utility artifacts, but I skipped out on one very specific instant that you should include in a deck like this because it's a win con, and it should go in all decks that play blue. So the next 3 cards I'm going to give you are specifically a win con in this deck. There is win con in any blue deck. Specifically, any blue deck should run this. It's an automatic win con. It is Dramatic Reversal, Isochron Scepter, and Aetherflux Reservoir. Dramatic Reversal is the instant I had not mentioned yet, and obviously Isochron Scepter lets you cast it over and over and over again. As long as you have out enough artifacts to untap to recast and make infinite mana, it'll be infinite mana, infinite spells copied or cast, whichever way you want to look at it, because it depends on, you know, what you're doing. And Aetherflux Reservoir will give you a lot of life that you can fling the 50 damage out to anybody. So that is a win con right there by itself. Other artifacts that are utility, Primal Amulet helps you make your spells cheaper. Sentinel Tower, again, it'll start throwing damage out left and right. And one that I have not used myself, I do believe that this would work in this deck, is Twinning Staff from last year's Commander. So it really does. It looks like it'll be a good addition to a deck like this. As far as anything else, though, it will depend on the meta that you play in and the play style that you do. So again, I'll mention this 40 times more. Use whatever you can use, to gather, MTG Familiar, whatever, to look at things that you think would fit into your playstyle. But I really implore you that Dramatic Reversal, Isochron Scepter, and Aetherflux Reservoir always goes into a blue deck. Some enchantments that you can use. I have the Storm, Jace's Sanctum to help lower the cost of your spells, and Precognition Fields so you can actually cast spells off the top of your library. All the ways that you can upgrade this deck, no matter what direction you choose to go in, can use those. I believe that I'm going to make a mistake here, because I believe, and I'm going to look real fast, I did not see this in the precon deck list, so I may have made a mistake, and I may have to eat my own words, but I did. Alright, so I made a mistake. I was going to suggest adding Swarm Intelligence. They've already done that. So we're going to skip that, and we're going to go right to 1,000 Year Storm. And I mentioned it earlier in jest, but I wasn't really kidding. Shark Typhoon. Whenever you cast an instant, it might even be a non-creature spell, you get a shark, a flying shark, I believe it is, which is just great. So Shark Typhoon and 1,000 Year Storm, great additions. You're in blue, and I hate to be that guy, but these next 3 cards, well, 2 of them anyway, are just auto-includes in a blue deck as well. Mystic Remora, Rhystic Study, and for this deck, Trail of Evidence. All 3 can go in this deck. It doesn't matter which version you want to upgrade to. They can all fit into this deck flawlessly. Alright? And Walkers. So Walkers. For this deck, not every Chandra works. Okay? Not every red or blue Walker works. Some work better than others. I would go with Chandra, Acolyte of Flame, Ral, Is It Viceroy, naturally, and then Ral, Storm Conduit, because they just seem to really fit this deck's theme very well. Secondary, if you want to go even further, I wouldn't put these in here, but you could depending on how you're going to build it. You could do the new Rowan, I believe it is, Rowan, Scholar of Sparks. You could do the, I forget what set it was. I think it was the Battle Bond set, the Will Kenrith. I believe that's where it came from, Will Kenrith. And then, not so much, it depends on if you want to do a lot of tokens, but Saheeli, Sublime Artificer, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you can create a 1/1 servo, I believe it is. Not that great, but it could serve a purpose depending on what kind of deck you're building. So, those are the 6 walkers I would suggest as an upgrade for this. I believe that Jai is good, but you can do better. And then the last thing I'm going to mention is a couple of the win cons. So, with you being in red and blue, if you do the dramatic they call it dramatic scepter, they call it ISO Rev. There's a lot of names for it, but dramatic reversal and Isochron scepter, you want to be able to spend that infinite mana, or if you can build a lot of mana in a deck like this, or you can copy it. Expansion and Explosion or Comet Storm are great game enders, specifically Comet Storm because you can divide the damage out. So those are some ways that you can win the game with big X spells. Those are the ones that I would choose. I do believe that Comet Storm, as far as a red finisher in Commander, is probably the best one. Just my opinion. Don't quote me on it. I believe it's the best one, but some people might think otherwise. So those are a few of the suggestions that I have for upgrading. Again, there are so many that this deck can go with. It's just almost infinite as far as these 2 colors go. So take a look at your meta, see how you like to play, and those are the options I would go with. I myself would go with Storm. So anyway, that's all I got for you on this deck. The upgrades, the actual deck itself. Hopefully you enjoyed what you saw. Hopefully you got something out of it. Please do me the favor. I'm going to go into my spiel. Please like, subscribe, and share. You know, it's always nice when I get some support from the people who do actually subscribe. Sharing it out helps other people see it, and liking the video apparently gets you higher viewership. Not viewership, but like you get more noticed on the front page if you do likes, so please give me some likes. Other than that, it's my time for this week, I guess. This is going to be my second video. I wasn't planning on doing it, but I have to get these done. So I want to thank you again for watching. Again, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. And if you have any questions, comments, or even suggestions, please feel free to contact me. You can go to my Facebook page. It'll be linked in the comment section, or not in the comment. It'll be linked in the description below. You can contact me if you have anything you want to talk about. Other than that, stay safe, enjoy your week, and I will see you all next week.